Rob Nelson here. Today I want to show you the Hero5 and the 7 main differences I found between the Hero4.
Testing out the GoPro Hero5.
So recently I did pick up a Hero5. And before I picked it up, I really was curious about a whole bunch of these new features, and I just couldn't find anybody online that had a really good review of them, and that's why I'm making this one.
All right, now what I'm gonna do is test the frame rate.
Now, I do have extensive experience using the Hero4 camera. In fact, Jonas and I have been working with GoPro to make half a dozen or so videos that have been put out on their channel. It's a really great camera, and I'm actually hoping that this experience gives me some ability to discern the differences. Also, I should mention this is not a paid endorsement for the Hero5. Nobody paid me to do this, so I hope I can give a critical review of the new camera. All right, let's get started. The waterproof shell. Now, the first thing that you'll notice is that the Hero5 right out of the box is completely waterproof, which is fantastic news.
You stick this GoPro down in the water. It's supposed to be waterproof.
If you've used the Hero4, it's a fantastic camera. It does great things when it's out of the box. I mean, that's how you're going to be using it most of the time. But if you notice right over here, all of this is exposed. So you can't be like doing anything where there's wet conditions like wakeboarding or snowboarding or scuba diving when it's out of the case, right? Because it could get in there and mess up your camera. So as soon as you stick it in the case though, there is a tendency for in between here to fog up a little bit. And you used to put little strips in here to try to prevent that. But to be honest, if you're say scuba diving in cold water or you're in the jungle or something, it's going to fog up at times, and that just messes things up. But this prevents that because it's all sealed. Awesome feature. The only thing I was a little bit concerned with is that you have glass here, it's curved, this is flat. I didn't know what it would do to the optics, say if you were pointing both of them into the sun. So I did a test or two like this.
A quick time lapse right here of Mammoth Mountain. I've got the Hero4 right there doing a time lapse. I'm gonna set this one up doing the exact same thing, see what it looks like.
Okay, now I'll be really honest with you. Hero5, Hero4, pretty hard to tell the difference. At first glance, it might look like the Hero4's a little bit better, but I wanted to scroll back and forth across the sun. I think there may be just a little less glare in the Hero5. And if you look at the buildings here, scroll back and forth, I think the Hero5 has a little bit better resolution. Although both of them you can play with the color and the sharpness and get them to be almost identical. So pretty much a wash there. Audio. It has 3 audio ports. 1, 2, and 3. And apparently it switches back and forth between stereo and wind reduction modes, which is always something I've had a little bit of a problem with here, is that if it's windy at all and it's out of the case, you detect that wind. Now, anybody that's used the Hero4 knows that for the best audio, you take it out of the case. And if you put it into the case, the audio is pretty much unusable. I mean, you hear stuff being said.
Don't tell them that. Don't encourage this.
But it's not good and crisp, and you're going to have to find some other audio source. But if you have this thing either on a head mount or a chesty, more or less right in this range, it's great, and you probably won't need any other audio source. It's like you're using a lavalier microphone. So I wanted to test this thing out.
Both GoPros here, see, filming each other.
So I was a little bit skeptical that it would be any better, but I did a few tests like this.
So there's a little bit of wind, and I want to see how each of them perform.
Now here's what I found. If you're basically just holding the two out like this, I don't think the Hero5 has better audio. But remember, this is waterproof. So that is a big plus. When I talk to this one from the back, it sounds pretty good. When I talk to this one from the back, it doesn't sound as good.
So if you're wondering why I'm not in the studio, I'm traveling right at the moment. So I'm here in this hotel room in San Antonio.
Now the other thing that I will note that I've rarely noticed with this is that when I have it in a mount, say, you know, I don't detect myself handling the mount much, but this one, and I think partly because of the new design and that it's waterproof with audio, when it's in the mount, it picks up some of the sound traveling up through the mounts. Also, I think the Hero5 is doing something a little bit interesting automatically while it's switching between stereo and wind reduction modes, which I don't necessarily like.
18. Take 18. Okay, we moved just down a little bit further and test the temperature here.
I think that with more practice, I'll learn when to use wind reduction, when to use stereo, when to put it in fully manual, and when to let it do its thing. I think in the end, you'll probably want to do manual most of the time to get good audio. Now for the touchscreen. I love this feature. I know it came standard on the Hero 4 Silver, but it never came standard on the Hero 4 Black. You had to add a little attachment later, but it's so handy to be able to change things. And it's also not a huge battery drain because it does go into standby mode. It turns off after a minute, but you can tap it, turn it back on again. Now it may not be quite as advanced as your phone, but it's really just as good as it needs to be. There's a little bit of a delay sometimes, but it's not bad. But all this essentially makes it really nice, really easy to change things for the standard person who's using it as their vacation camera. Now the one thing to remember, just like your phone, it's not going to work if you have gloves on, if your fingers are super cold, or if the screen is wet, like if you're surfing or something. So you can change modes with the side button, which is pretty handy, or you can change modes with voice command.
What it looks like with video and GoPro take photo. GoPro stop recording.
I love this feature. I really, really do. The only times I've ever had problems with it are when I'm saying the wrong thing.
GoPro take photo.
Oh, can't do that. So here are the commands that you need to say. First of all, you start everything with GoPro, and then you say, GoPro, start recording. You can have stop recording, take photo, shoot burst, start time-lapse, stop time-lapse, video mode, photo mode, time-lapse mode, burst mode, turn off. Or if you're like, oh, yeah, did that highlight too. Do you see that?
Did I tell you that every time you say a curse word, it marks it for you?
You want to use the GoPro in harsh conditions, and using voice command allows you to not have to like take your gloves off and hit the buttons or mess around with it other than just say what you want it to do. Love that feature. Now the menu system of the Hero 5 I think is much improved. Now rather than show you the differences, I'm just going to go through the menu system on the Hero 5. Now first of all, you have video mode, which will allow you to do video, video and photo, and looping modes. And then you have photo mode for photos, night photos, and bursts. And then you have time-lapse mode for time-lapse video, time-lapse photo, and night-lapse photo. Now I'm not going to go through when it's good to use one mode over the other. Maybe I can do that in a future video. Now if you swipe on the right, you bring up Pro Tunes, your video stabilization, your auto low light, and your audio control. Plus, each one of these different things comes with a description, so if you forget what it is, it says it right down. That's very, very handy. Now if you swipe from the top, you get your Wi-Fi connection and your preferences. Swipe from the left, you see your media. And then of course, if you just tap here on the top, then you can delete clips or format your card. I think they did a really good job and improved it quite a lot. Image stabilization. Now this is awesome. I love this. It is an internal thing that's happening inside of the camera. What you need to know is that it's going to crop your image down about 10% when you turn it on. And here's where you turn it on. And the great thing is that this is going to reduce shake, particularly if you mount it like on a car and it's shaking a little bit like this, just little shake, completely reduces that. So that's a fantastic feature. Raw pictures. This is the final thing that is going to blow your mind. It is the one complaint that I had when I was using the Hero 4 is that you couldn't take raw images. But with this new one, you can. So essentially, if you swipe from the right in photo mode, you can manipulate the preferences, of course, in Pro Tunes here, or you can use WDR, which is wide dynamic range, to create JPEG images. Or, if you swipe one more time, you can turn on raw format. That turns off the WDR, but the files come out as raw images in the form of .gpr files here. And the only problem is that you can't just open them up in any program. You have to update your camera raw. You have to update your versions of, say, Lightroom or Photoshop or whatever you're using. All those things are probably changing all the time and will be outdated if I tell you what it is available right at the moment. So I'm going to leave a link below where you can see what programs can be used with camera raw. So let me show you the differences here. I was in a cave, obviously a lot of light coming from up top. It's very dark inside of the cave. I thought it was a very good chance to experiment with camera raw. Understandably, there's going to be some noise in this shot because I was shooting in such low light conditions, but here is the JPEG image and here is the raw image. Now, let me just zoom in here for you so you can see the difference on both of these. Look how much more range you have on the raw image. This was exactly the same setup. I just switched the modes on the camera so that I could see the difference. I really was blown away. There is a lot more detail in the raw image. So shoot raw when you can on the Hero5. Just remember, you can only do it in photo mode, not time-lapse photo or continuous or burst or anything like that. It's only in photo mode. All right, that's all I have. Basically 7 features that I found were very different from the Hero4. If there's anything else that I missed or you have any questions, leave it in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next Tuesday.